Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time around we started The Mind of Evil. What was that one about?
Well, if I vaguely recall, there's this machine that they have supposedly been testing out in Europe, and they finally brought it to Britain, which is supposed to remove bad impulses from people, and they're going to try it out on this prisoner, but although it extracts the evil impulses from this guy, apparently it then sends it out through the rest of the prison, and turns out to be a plot. And you call this, I didn't think they'd bring him back this soon. Turns out to be a big plot of the Master, who is, who knows what he's doing. I mean, I've still yet to figure out why he hates Earth so much, but he's now trapped here, and apparently he's using this machine to try to take over and steal a nuclear weapon, which he plans to use on a peace conference to start World War III. And again, I don't understand. If he's trapped on Earth, isn't he going to die when the Earth blows up? So anyway, that's what I remember.
Yes, so he is currently trying to get this nuclear device to detonate at the peace conference, which the Brigadier is currently handling security over. And yes, that is his plan, to send the world into war. Which, I mean, again, they haven't explained near anything about him.
Yeah.
It's just that he's another Time Lord who just has it out for the Doctor. You just sort of infer, well, he's going after Earth because the Doctor tends to go to Earth a lot, so, and he's stuck there anyway. So, yeah, it's an interesting plan. A very complicated, very strange, but very Master-like plan. So,
I mean, it would be one thing if he was after some particular goal, but I don't seem to see where the end game is going here. Again, if he starts World War III and he gets the nuclear bombs, the nuclear missiles flying, it's literally going to kill everyone on Earth, and it will ultimately kill him. And although he regenerates, it's going to be, nuclear winter. He's going to die over and over and over again from all the radiation.
The only thing I can think is, if he still has his TARDIS, yes, he can't go anywhere with his TARDIS, but presumably his TARDIS has enough shielding to protect him from nuclear winter. And
sure, live, how's it, 50,000 years until he can finally, get off of Earth, or it calms down and species begin to... I mean, seriously, the plot makes no sense at this point. Now, it may still...
Yeah.
But at this point, I got no idea where this guy's going with this.
He may also be thinking that he'll try to get his dematerialization circuit back before all this happens, or maybe he has a backup plan for that. Who knows? He might have the Doctor bargaining with that.
Right? Yeah. Right at the end, wasn't he trying to do that? I thought he said something about bargaining, about getting his dematerialization circuit back. I don't know. I seem to recall that, but I may be mistaken. So I don't know.
Maybe. Oh, I don't know. But yeah, I think where last we left, I think the Doctor was strapped down to the Keller machine, and so he was getting those visions of the fire and the Daleks and stuff, because that's his greatest fear, is a world being destroyed, which, in fairness, I guess that's kind of about to happen if World War III starts. So, yeah. That was pretty much that. This time around, we're going to be finishing up the story with the last 3 episodes. You got anything else?
No, I was going to mention, talk to Alex just before we turned on the recording. It's turning cold here in October in Oklahoma, but I was doing some work for my classes this morning, and I realized that between the 1st of January, 2021, and July 7th, 2021, we only had 25 tornadoes here in Oklahoma. This has been a very low year for tornadoes. We normally average about 50. So between July 7th and October 10th, no tornadoes whatsoever. Highly unusual for Oklahoma. However, starting last Sunday through this Wednesday, in a 4-day span, we've had 23 tornadoes in Oklahoma.
That's a lot of tornadoes.
Yeah. Now, they're all EF zeros and EF ones, nothing big, but the fact that we had 23 over the span of 4 days, whereas we previously had 25 over the span of 7 months, that's a little freaky.
Yeah.
So it is both cold and tornado season back again in Oklahoma.
Yes, it is. You are right that it is starting to turn cool, which means in the morning the house is cooler than it normally is. And of course, me being me, the ceiling fan is turned on high.
Yes, it's rather brisk in here today.
Yeah. So, but it's fine because we're in a closed off room with a computer that is generating heat from all the recordings. So
It never makes it over to me, though. I'm still very, very cold.
that's true. Oh well.
Anyway,
I do have a purple blanket if you would like it.
maybe.
All right. Well, tell me if you need it. I'll go grab it for you. So, anywho,
Let's do it.
let's go ahead and get into the Mind of Evil. Here we go. This may not be your greatest plan, Master.
Carotid artery's a little further down there, Master.
Nuh.
Unless, of course, on the doctor it's in his chin.
Nuh. 1 and 2. Oh, one of his hearts is out.
Inside is a creature that feeds on the evil of the mind. And very soon it'll feed on yours.
Nonsense! Miller! Right, take him out.
There's a creature inside the machine.
Yeah.
You can't harm me. I'm stronger than you are. I brought you here.
In a casing that looks a whole lot like a pepper pot.
Unplug him, you idiot.
Nuh. Put on a tinfoil hat or something.
Is that your greatest fear?
Nuh. Well, it's an interesting effect, if a little goofy.
Ghost of Jacob Marley.
Nuh.
Doctor, take one of these. Come on.
No,
Come on, just try.
no.
Come on, it's grape flavored.
That's wrong.
But have you thought that as well as the police, you'd have the army against you?
Oh, man, he's got a presentation and everything.
Dogs, troops, helicopters?
Slideshow.
That is Thunderbolt. It's a gas missile, nuclear powered, and British, of course. Of course. But the most important thing is that it's illegal, because gas warfare has been outlawed for many years. Therefore, the British government are going to dump that in the sea.
Why have they had that for so
Tomorrow
long,
morning,
then?
that missile, with a very small escort, will pass within a few
good question.
miles of this prison.
All right, so
Good luck to you.
it's not a nuclear weapon, it's a poison gas weapon. But
Yeah.
why do they keep saying nuclear? Because it's a nuclear missile? Like ICBM or something?
I guess.
I thought that was meant to be for us. Thanks.
Good job.
Charlie, what's the matter? What the devil's going on here?
All right. We got out of here with a Three Stooges routine.
In stupider. Convoy on the armed attack. Estimated position.
Is that
Jupiter
Yates?
to Venus.
I
Jupiter
hope
to
not.
Venus. Give us.
I think that is Yates. Luckily, that shot missed all his vital organs.
All of them.
Oh, it's Benton.
The last
Poor
time he
Benton.
checked in, he was hit. Unit personnel only. This missile isn't supposed to exist. Keep trying to get through to Captain Yates.
Right.
Oh, it's a secret
Jupiter to
missile.
Venus, Jupiter to Venus. Do you read me? Over.
Maybe the idea is Britain's like, hey, so we've had this missile. Don't be mad we're dumping it in the ocean.
Oh, yeah. Nobody saw that.
No.
No, thank you. You were trying to use those things. They only make me nervous.
I guess she was trained to use those.
Okay. It teleported itself?
Or the master teleported it, or something. Or maybe it's just an illusion that it's gone. Kick it.
Shoot it.
Well, he shot it.
Fried his fritters.
Well, it's not the greatest effect they've ever done, but And neither is that. I could do that effect. If I wanted to.
Like Wayne's World.
Alrighty. And that is part 4.
Well, the action sequence of stealing the Thunderbolt was nice. The rest of it, here, let's sit around and wait. That's, again, it's absolutely necessary to advance the plot, but other than the Thunderbolt sequence, not a whole lot went on there.
Yeah.
Other than, of course, we learned that there is a creature, and that it can apparently teleport and fry people's brains.
Yeah. And this is another instance of the Master thinks he can control the creature, but he's not doing a great job of that. Which, I mean, it's kind of true even in, like, modern Doctor Who. I think the Master always kind of shows up with some other alien race. And sometimes it's okay. Like, sometimes the Master will, like, he'll create his own Cybermen, and then that kind of works. But then, like, the most successful time he's ever had in modern Doctor Who is when he created just a million of himself. It was the only time that ever worked, and even then, it didn't work. So, so yeah, I'm thinking this might be a running thing with the Master, that he keeps bringing in some other alien thing. So, yeah. It is nice, at least, though, that we've basically replaced the mad scientist character with the Master. So, he's much more enjoyable than most of our mad scientists.
Yeah.
So,
because it's not as overbearing. Remember when we saw the invasion, the Cybermen, the guy, the actor who had played Mavic Chen before, what was his name in that one?
It was Tobias something.
Yeah. But again, playing it not like, the mad scientist or the mad administrator, the base administrator, whatever. That is always much better. Because it does give you the contrast between the evil stuff that he's doing and the calm, collected, somewhat, suave and debonair manner that he's, actually creating. So yeah, I do like the Master. Again, can't see where this plot is going.
Yeah.
We seem to have been confused because now they're saying that it's a gas weapon. Why do they keep saying nuclear? I don't know. That makes no sense now.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a nuclear gas weapon. Like, maybe what it is, like, you've got the initial explosion and then the area of radiation, and then out from there is where the gas is dispersed.
I've never heard of a weapon like that.
Yeah, unless it's just a specific type of nuclear weapon based on gas somehow.
Yeah.
But
radioactive gas, which seems kind of odd.
Yeah.
Because, again, you can have a neutron bomb, which literally destroys the people and leaves the structures. So.
Yeah. Well, in the words of the Brigadier, this shouldn't exist. So, we'll just kind of have to go with that. It's just some weird thing they're putting in this episode. Yeah. So.
And makes you wonder, are they going to explain who or what or where this alien came from? Or is this going to be another, goo and seaweed sort of thing that it's just there and we never understand why?
At least they explain what its purpose is. It's a parasite that feeds off evil. We don't know where he found it. We just know he did. So, it at least has a one-up on the goo.
Now, it makes me wonder, if you go back to the beginning, it sucked all the evil out of that one guy. So would he be immune to it by this time then? Since he doesn't have any evil, would he be able to overthrow it?
In theory.
You really think he's going to keep those promises? Why not?
He doesn't care whether you live or die. He's just using you.
So he's using me, I'm using him.
I don't think you are.
I suppose there couldn't possibly be a secret underground passage or something.
Good, Major. Good. Is that a map of the prison?
Yes, sir.
Give it time, Cosworth. You're going to be replacing Yates.
He's a bit too much of a nerd. They need some muscle.
No, that's what Benton's for.
Right, that settles it. We're going to take that prison.
By using the underground passage?
Yes. And also by using a Trojan horse.
I would love if he actually had a giant Trojan horse and wheeled it up there.
Doctor?
There.
Doctor,
There.
Yes, well, the trouble with this game is that it's too simple.
Well,
case
good
I-
job, Joe.
I'm more used to playing.
However, not all of our opponents will be armed, and none of them will be trained soldiers.
And of course, we shall have surprise on our side.
Exactly. Any questions?
No, sir.
Right, carry on.
In fairness, you've dealt with non-trained people before and didn't go well. You know, the soldiers of unit, they're starting to turn into like the clones from Clone Wars. Like, you really start to like them. Good job.
Blow the place up, Ben. Or is this Yates? That's Yates.
Yates.
you must hurry. If that thing in there...
And like the clones, you can get their names confused.
Situation, thank you.
This is very ingenious.
If all goes well, it should set up an electric current in the coil, alternating on much the same frequency as the beta rhythms of the human brain.
And you think that'll deal with it?
No, I think it'll confuse the creature enough to take away its power of movement anyway.
Well, I hope you are right.
So do I.
This is an interesting dynamic when the two of them work together.
Right.
Taking naps like
Hey,
Troughton
how about
did.
some food?
No.
Do you think they'd let us have any? I knew they wouldn't bother to clear up. Here we are.
Floor food.
No, thanks, Joe. You have it.
Sir Walter Raleigh.
Oh,
He got into some trouble with Queen Elizabeth. Elizabeth I, that is. He kept going on about this new vegetable of his he discovered, you see, called potato. One day, he sat down.
Thought we were going to have a flashback for a second. So that's another time the Doctor encountered Queen Elizabeth I.
Although it would have been easy to get into the cell without ever having seen the Queen.
I guess that's true. Is that the Brigadier?
Yeah.
Posing?
Drive up the main courtyard. Unload there. We'll give you a hand. The chief wants you out of here as quick as possible.
Don't worry. Less time I spend in there, the better.
Okay.
Guy's standing right there.
Oh, they got him. I love it when British people imitate other British people. It's hilarious. They probably think the same thing when we do like Southern accents and stuff.
Shoot them.
Oh,
Shoot them all. That's gonna hurt.
maybe they were foam stairs.
Ooh, that was brutal.
Good job. Up, we're going up.
they won't listen.
Move.
You know,
And remember, know your brakes.
in their training and everything, they really need to learn the take and hit. Was that not invented in 71?
I warned you. I only need one of you.
Well, it was a good attempt. You know, I wonder if he aimed here and missed both of his hearts.
I think that was a trick shot. I think that was probably the Brigadier shooting Mailer.
Maybe. Yeah, could have been.
Notice you didn't see anything but the gun.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Also interesting, I just noticed that the Master is built second over Joe and the Brigadier.
Didn't they say once that after the Doctor it's order of appearance?
Well, I know that was the case before, but I could have sworn it was... I could have sworn maybe that changed a bit. Or, all this time they've had the Brigadier show up first after the Doctor. So, I guess that's entirely possible. I know they did that in the old days, so...
Yeah, remember, because we were very concerned about that because we couldn't figure out why the companions weren't showing up, and then somebody explained that it's order of appearance.
Yeah, so... Yeah, but you're right that the Doctor always takes first billing. Even in Mission to the Unknown, which he wasn't even in that episode, he was still up there. So, all right, that's part 5.
Well, a lot more action.
Yeah.
Although we still don't know exactly what's happening with the missile.
Yeah, it's somewhere... I mean, it's just in another location, and he's going to try to launch it there. So...
But Yates escaped.
He did.
But didn't seem to... It seems to me the logical thing would have been to destroy all the launching mechanisms so that it couldn't be done. So maybe he's gone out and done something to the missile itself.
The only thing I could think is if it was still on the truck, that he just takes the truck and hightails it out of there. But I don't know. I'm not really sure. I mean, he's one man, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess, though, there's probably not too many people there because they were all back at the prison, even with the master, so...
That's just flat out murder.
I mean, in fairness, you know, what were they in for? What kind of punishment were they going to get?
Yeah.
Maybe units just speeding up the process. In the most bloodless way they can. Ah, good call. It was the Brigadier.
Thank you, Brigadier. But do you think for once in your life you could manage to arrive before the nick of time?
I'm glad to see you too, Doctor. All right, Miss Grant? No need to worry about the master anymore. This time we've got him.
I'm not sure about that. Is this a good time for a cigar?
I'm going to say, around this highly sensitive equipment, probably not a great idea.
Oh man, it's getting to the camera guy.
That would certainly make one lose one's lunch.
Yeah, I was about to say, is anyone getting motion sick?
I like soup.
Sergeant, Acting Governor Benton here.
It's Dr. Summers.
Get back! Get back! What are these noises?
Oh, you're right, he's not affected.
That creature feeds on the evil impulses of the brain.
And Barnum hasn't got any.
No, the machine extracted them all. Something in his mind acts as a screen and neutralizes it. So long as he's here, we're perfectly safe.
So we're assuming that, you know, the Doctor and Joe have some evil impulses, but shouldn't be enough to feed the machine.
Oh, yes. Recovering rapidly, sir. So, if the master threatens to launch the missile, we simply blow it up on the ground. From here.
They're just gonna blow up the base itself.
A brain with an eyeball.
No, Doctor.
Take an atomic explosion or an enormous charge of electricity to destroy that.
So what are we going to do?
You can't just stab it a bunch?
I'm gonna see Sergeant
Boil it.
Benton. Will you wait here?
Mix it with some scrambled eggs.
Put it in a microwave?
Microwaves are in their infant stages at this point.
Ah.
In spite of what I've said, do you still intend to fire that rocket on London?
I most certainly do.
Well, that would start a world war.
Exactly. And then later, when this planet is in ruins, I shall take over.
I see. Aren't you forgetting something?
Maybe he's seen First Contact.
Captain Yates, you'll be in charge of the evacuation. I want the area around that hangar completely clear within a 10-mile radius. Right,
He's just gonna detonate it on the master.
Signals. Over.
Yes, that's it.
It's like the flux capacitor.
Well,
I hate to see the master escape unpunished as much as you do.
it's a good thing
where he
they knew
escaped
what they
to.
were looking for. Oh, there's so much goo coming from it. Well, so much for him.
He's dead. Come on, Joe.
Well, great job. What was he doing?
Joe, come on.
Trying to save the master because he doesn't have any evil thoughts.
I guess.
Now, the conclusion here should be a massive explosion.
Yeah. Clear everyone in a 10-mile radius, they said.
1. Abort.
Nice.
Oof.
Yes?
Ah, Doctor. I was afraid you'd be worried about me, so I thought I'd let you know that I'm alive and well.
I'm extremely sorry to hear that.
I need the safety of my TARDIS, which, thanks to your generosity, is in perfect working order.
So we won't be seeing you for quite some time.
Not for quite some time.
Well, not
But
next
one day-
episode.
What did he say?
His usual threats.
Never mind, Doctor, you've beaten him.
Have I, Joe? He's got his TARDIS back. He's free to come and go where he pleases, while I'm stuck here on Earth. With you, Brigadier.
Alrighty. Okay. That is part 6.
Now, this is going to sound odd because we haven't said this in a long time. I think they could have done this in 5.
Yeah.
There was some padding there, especially in episodes 4 and 5. I don't know that they could have taken out an entire half hour, but I think if they had had time, if the script editor, could have gotten in there, there was some stuff they could have compacted. Now, that's not to say that it wasn't a good story.
Yeah.
It seemed a little overly stretched out in those scenes where the Doctor is sitting there in the dark, waiting, and then it's just, again, could have been compacted, but otherwise, good story. The Master, of course, is brilliant. Roger Delgado is just wonderful.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think stole the show from Pertwee in this one.
Yeah, honestly. It is interesting, though, that the peace conference really takes a back seat in these last 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Like, there was nothing about that or Chin Lee or anything like that. Just that was all kind of like, nope, we're back to just the prison now.
Yeah,
so
completely disappeared. So, you're right. Maybe if they had put some more of that into episodes 4 and 5, that would have tightened it up a little bit. But again, it doesn't. You're right. It seemed to have served its purpose by episode 3.
Yeah,
and it was gone by then.
Well, it's also a thing of, at the end of the day, you do kind of question, well, why did we need both of these plot lines? Like, why did we need the prison and the peace conference? The peace conference, I get, that's where the Master's trying to do his grand plan, but why did you need the prison involved with that, Well, because even this whole thing of like, oh, well, this creature in this machine that feeds off the evil thoughts of, people. Honestly, if you put that at a specific peace conference, that sounds like a whole recipe for, strange things to be happening, you know. If it's targeting different people and it's like, well, wait a second, why do you have all these evil thoughts? You're here at a peace conference, you're trying to start something or something. So maybe if they had focused just on that, which, I mean, this is the same person that wrote Inferno, which also kind of had 2 different storylines that were sort of mashed together. So,
but yeah, they really did jettison the peace conference with the Chinese aspect of that, the Chinese delegates, because none of that, they kept referring to the peace conference, but there was no visual sense of it in these last 3 episodes at all. You're right. Yeah,
especially since the Brigadier moved to the mobile HQ, and then the rest of it was just the prison. Yeah. So, I wonder how fast it is to set up these mobile HQs, by the way, because like it's like this whole elaborate thing with like multiple rooms and stuff, and it's like they must have it down to a science to where they can get it up pretty quickly.
Yeah, that goes all the way back to the time between World War I and World War II, and then afterwards. Odd story, they actually learned a lot from the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. A lot of military advisors, both from Germany and the United States elsewhere, watched to see how quickly the circus could be put up in a town and then taken down and move out and go to the next town, and learned how to do all of this stuff like prefabricated units, which could be transported on a train or a flatbed truck or whatever, and you get in, you get it up, and everything's running in just a matter of hours. So.
Yeah, so... Alrighty. So, to jump into the notes, the first thing is the reveal that the Keller machine does have a creature in it.
Yeah.
Now, they don't explain, where it is or how the Master found it or anything. And so, naturally, we would compare this... is this our new power of the Daleks? Like, this is our new thing, is the goo and the seaweed and stuff like that. At the very least, the Master does explain... it's a specific parasite that feeds off of the evil from the mind. And it's like, okay, well, I at least understand that. You go back to the goo and it's like, what is this? Like, I don't know. It turned them into a werewolf. That's about the most I got.
Yeah, from the comments, of course, it wasn't supposed to originally turn them into werewolves, but that's basically what they could do with the budget.
Yeah. I think someone says like maybe they were going to do that with the face, like or melt the face because it's Inferno and stuff like that. But maybe that was too gruesome, so they went with werewolves instead.
Werewolves with the claws and the fangs and everything aren't too gruesome. I guess because you're used to werewolves by this time.
I guess so.
But again, to me, as a former playwright, I hate to. This is my mantra. One line, when he says, where on earth did this, or where did this, not on earth, but where did this alien come from? Oh, perhaps he could say something that I have an entire room full of alien specimens on my TARDIS that I've picked up in my previous travels. Anything at all like that.
Yeah. Well, because we also don't know how long has he been planning this, because we don't know how long it's been since Terror of the Autons. Probably not too long, maybe a couple weeks at the most, but he's apparently been setting this up for like a long time. It's like he's done this hundreds of times with prisoners in I think Switzerland is what they said, and now he's come over to the UK to start doing it here. So yeah, how long has he been doing this? Was he doing it at the same time as the Autons? Is this his plan B? Is it literally that plan A is the Nestines and the Autons, plan B is this thing? Now, as we keep going through the season, are we going to get plan C and D until eventually he runs out of plans?
Plan Z, yes.
Yeah, so...
Now, that's something else. In the Nestines, they do explain who the Nestines are and what they want.
Yeah.
And again, I don't mean to be critical of that, but it's happening more and more. And again, maybe the average teenager watching or the adults who are watching this didn't really care about that. But when you notice it recurring, this is at least the third time that we've seen this alien creature or alien force that we have no idea where they came from or what their plan is. It's a little frustrating.
Yeah. I think at least the benefit of this is the master, compared to other stuff with the seaweed or the goo. It's those were just sort of there. They just sort of pop up somehow and they're doing all this evil stuff. At least here, you do know, well, the master clearly found this thing somewhere and was like, oh, I have a brilliant idea with this thing. I'll, use it to destroy the Earth and get this missile and go to the peace conference. It's all right. It gets a lot weird and elaborate after that, but you do at least understand, okay, how did this creature get to Earth? Well, the master found it. Had to have been before he lost his dematerialization circuit too. So this was something he's been working on since before the Nestines and everything. Yeah. So,
but again, final comment for me on this: they could use the Silurians as their template. All the Doctor has to say is about the goo or about I guess the Silurians is after the seaweed, but just the fact, this planet has been around for hundreds of millions of years, and there are way more creatures who existed for a longer time than humans have been here. So to explain that the goo was some primordial soup that was simply a bacteria or a virus or whatever, that's one line is all it takes. Because otherwise, again, you're just left going, okay, but I don't understand. Why the seaweed? Why the goo? Why this particular, brain evil sapping alien species? Just, so, I don't know. So, I'm done. Sorry.
Well, I mean...
End of rant.
I guess, because it's the whole thing of... I guess you could make the argument it's the whole thing of show, don't tell. But you gotta tell something. I mean, I don't want it to be like, Christopher Nolan or in The Matrix or anything where it's like, no, shut up and you don't have to tell me every last thing, but you gotta tell me something, In our communication, this is how we communicate to each other as creatures, is through talking. You can say something.
Throw us a primordial bone.
Yeah, we're not in the old silent films. You can say something. So,
let's move on.
All right. Well, the Doctor was down one heart for a little bit. Which there was an episode with Tennant where one of his hearts was out, and he was a little bit better off than the third Doctor here, but he was just sort of it was a lot of pain. He was going around. He's like, how do people deal with this? I need both of them, and eventually he did get the other one going. So,
would the sonic screwdriver do that? Would it create enough of an electrical current? Now, although I have to say, as a person who's actually been defibrillated, I don't remember it at all.
Yeah.
I have zero memory, even muscle memory of anything, like electricity passing from one part of my chest through the other part of my chest to get my heart started again. So
yeah. I don't know. I mean, in that episode, he did have the sonic screwdriver, but at that point, they were just, hitting his chest to get that heart started. Yeah. So, well, there was another one. Actually, the more I think about it, there's multiple episodes where he loses one of his hearts. So, I think the 11th Doctor does that, and then they do the defib. But yeah, I don't know. It does bring up a question. It's like, how long can he survive with only one of his hearts going? So, I mean, you could probably say the same thing of how long can we just last with one of our lungs? Like, it's probably better than one of our hearts gone, but...
actually, there are people who have just one lung.
Yeah.
You have to have one taken out because of cancer or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta have the heart.
Yeah, so... we also had the Master Sphere, which was the Doctor laughing at him. It was a little silly, but you can kind of understand. I guess he's just afraid of his own failure and being looked down on by the Doctor. Strange that that's his greatest fear, but I mean, I guess I can kind of understand it. So,
but I mean, it's also his greatest motivator.
If
he can beat the Doctor, he will have achieved his life goal.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, it did have that rather Jacob Marley quality to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, because you had Pertwee, somewhat transparent and sort of floating and stuff. So yeah. Let's see. We had the gas missile, which again, we're not quite sure how that works, but I guess we don't really need too many specifics. It's just a bad missile.
Well, yeah. But again, the thing for us, though, it was confusing because they kept saying nuclear. We thought they were going to launch a nuclear missile at London, but if it's somehow a nuclear-powered missile that has this, nerve gas in it, that's an entirely different thing. And that's, again, that really flummoxed us in the first 3 episodes because we couldn't figure out what they were doing.
Yeah.
But they made much more of just the gas missile here because it's something they shouldn't still have. It had been outlawed by the Geneva Convention. That's why they were going to dump it in the ocean.
Yeah. But they've had it for all this time.
Yes, and it doesn't seem to be something... again, if I recall correctly, the Geneva Convention had outlawed that stuff at least by the late 40s or early 50s.
Yeah. And this is... Well,
that was a modern missile.
Yeah. Now, this is released in 1971. I know there's all the theories that this takes place in the 80s. I don't care. We're saying 1971 and calling it a day there. So,
but yeah, it doesn't make sense why they would have it.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, the Brigadier also says they're not supposed to have it. That it's not supposed to exist. So, I guess the implication is just that the British government did have this, just secretly. So, or, I mean, I guess if it was under unit supervision, maybe it was more of a specific unit missile instead of specifically British.
But even so, it has been banned by the conventions of Geneva.
Yeah, so...
Gas warfare is illegal.
There's also the question, especially if it's just a nerve gas that he would have launched. The whole thing is he's trying to send the world into war. But there is the question of, well, is he going to blame it on someone? Because otherwise, I mean, I don't know. This is the 70s. You have greater experience in the 70s than I do. So, would people perhaps think it would just be a terrorist attack rather than something from another nation that would incite war like that?
Yes, that's entirely possible. A lot of people would also think that it might just be an accident because if nobody knew it was an actual missile, anybody who survived might not have seen the missile. So it could have been just an accidental thing. Now it just occurred to me that again there's another line that they could have done where the Brigadier says, "We have taken this missile from another country, or we've taken it from a terrorist organization, and we are in the process of disposing of it." I mean, that way it wouldn't put any blame on Great Britain or on UNIT to have the missile in the first place. If they had said, we have acquired this from, a Middle Eastern country or Eastern Asia, Western Asia, even South America, or someplace in North America if it was a terrorist organization. But the fact that the British government or unit actually had this, that's sketchy at best, and that's illegal at worst.
Yeah, so it's a whole strange thing. I mean, it works for the Master's ridiculous idea, his ridiculous plan of destroying the world, but at the same time, it's just, I don't know, there's a whole lot of technicals that, yes, we're overthinking, but at the same time, they just don't all add up, So, and I guess at the end of the day, you were wondering what the end game was for the Master, and he said that he was going to launch the world into a nuclear war, and then whatever was left, he was going to then rule, which was interesting. Which, I mean, it wouldn't be a lot.
No. I mean, mostly the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
There's all of that, nuclear literature from the late 60s and early 70s. I think there's a movie called On the Beach, where basically after a nuclear war, the only safe places would be like Australia and South Africa and southern South America, because the huge mass of the war would take place in North America and Europe and Asia, which are all in the Northern Hemisphere. But at some point, that gigantic cloud of radioactivity is going to encircle the planet, and people in the Southern Hemisphere wouldn't be safe from that either.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, we kind of joke, well, maybe he's seen Star Trek First Contact, where, it's like, there's some people out in Montana and stuff. But even then, it was very rough in that movie, where it's like, there's not a whole lot of people left after World War III and the eugenics wars and all that stuff that Star Trek never really covers, but kind of has the weird lore of Star Trek.
Yeah.
But it's like, and then the Master will rule that. Well, you're not getting much out of this deal, I don't think. I think it would be... I mean, it's also strange because I wouldn't put it past him to just try to rule what's already here, So, I don't know.
There's a line in an old Simon and Garfunkel song, though, that kind of fits here, where the lyric goes, "I'd rather be a hammer than a nail." So, if the world is even semi-destroyed, it's better to be the ruler of a semi-destroyed world than, living amongst these people that you think are your inferiors.
Yeah. So let's see. We had the convoy, couple action sequences in these episodes, which was good. And good old Captain Yates was able to follow them for a bit, and then he got caught anyway, but then he escaped, and these unit boys, they're not the most amazing, but...
And again, when he was left behind with the one guy, and then he disabled the one guy, it strikes me that the first thing as a trained unit soldier he would do is figure out a way to disable the machine.
Yeah.
The launch mechanism, even if he just takes a fire axe to it or something, unplugs it, rips out all the wires so that it's impossible to launch.
Yeah.
That would seem to be the most logical thing. And then once he's done that, contact HQ and contact Lethbridge Stewart and say, I've at least done this much, sir.
I mean, that is sort of an issue with fiction, is that they don't go and unplug stuff. Because, I mean, everything, especially, back then, it's like, I don't think this stuff would be on a battery. There's also, I remember, I was watching a reaction to Arrow. And if you remember in the 4th season, they had the whole thing with Damien Darhk was going to launch all the nukes. And I think it was something like he was controlling, all the stations that were going to do that. And one of the guys on the reaction said, turn off your internet. If you just do that, would that not work? If you turn off your internet, they can't hack into your own nuclear device. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Why don't you just do that? Why don't you go, and especially here for Yates, like, just unplug that. It's a specific control panel. It's not attached to the wall. It's just plugged in. Unplug all that stuff, bash it with a chair 100 times before the Master gets back, and then, I mean, if he figures out a way to launch it then, that's not on you, because you did everything you could.
Yeah.
So, that is a good point. They got to unplug stuff, but I don't know.
And here's what's really kind of weird. I mean, we enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It really did not stink like some of the other ones. We've seen some pretty bad episodes, but I mean, I enjoyed this entirely. It's just that you sit here as a former writer, and I just look at that and go, "Oh, come on! You guys are getting paid to do this, and again, give me these 6 scripts, and I could have fixed it within a week or two."
Well, and the fact that they've been doing this for 8 years now, and after 8 years, we're still kind of pointing out the same issues with every script. And I know, sure, yeah, after 8 years, you get some new writers and stuff, but there's got to be something of like, you know, come on, like there's some sort of consistency.
Yeah, that's what people have been telling us all along in the comments is there is no consistency. Right?
I know.
There's no continuity. Some of these guys come on literally having never seen the Doctor Who series before.
Yeah.
You know, and they're basically told, all right, you got a time traveler doing this, that, and they write a script, and it has nothing to do with anything you've seen previously, and you're going, wait a minute. Didn't somebody say you can't do that in Doctor Who?
Yeah, which I mean, I feel like they're getting a little bit better with the third Doctor. Like, there are things that are connecting, and especially with the Master, too. I feel like they're working more to connect different stories, especially with the Doctor's character and the Master as well. Although I'm sure it would be fairly simple to be like, okay, so here's the basic story of Doctor Who. Here's what you would basically write about. And our two, sort of main protagonists and antagonists. Here's the Doctor and the Master. Think James Bond and a James Bond villain. Roll with that. Yeah. And just have an overcomplicated plot.
But the other thing, too, here is the first 6 seasons, it is more understandable because they were literally writing, 48 to 52 episodes a year.
Yeah.
But when you've got half a year off, when you got 26 weeks off, and somebody says, all right, and again, even if you've got 5 or 6 serials, get all the writers to sit down in a room together and say, all right, if you're writing this story about the Autons and you're bringing in the Master, that's good. Anybody else want to use the Master? And some guy says, I don't know, did Houghton write the Autons too? No, he wrote Inferno, didn't he?
He wrote Inferno. I don't remember who wrote Autons.
Okay. But just say, all right, so we've got 26 weeks to fill. Here's the basic outline that we need from this Doctor. And then be sure that once the scripts are written, they come back in. You've got one guy, the story editor or whoever, who sits down and goes, okay, this is a great plot, but it contradicts everything we did, 6 episodes ago. So it strikes me that if this show is as popular as they say it is, how did they let them get away with this stuff for so long?
Yeah, because I understand there's no Gene Roddenberry at the helm of it all, but I mean, and maybe also because we do know this can work for Doctor Who. Because they're doing that right now. They've been doing that for, what are we on, 16 years now of modern Doctor Who from 2005 to now. They've done that where they have a specific showrunner and he's in charge of like, okay, get all this together. Like, okay, so this is what I want to do overall. And I've got a couple other people writing, okay, so just be sure you have this, and okay, let me make sure all this works together. And it all works. To varying degrees of success, I will grant you, but it does work. But none of that is going on here.
They need another Verity Lambert, or who was the guy that greenlight?
Sidney Newman.
Yeah, they need a Sidney Newman or a Verity Lambert who can say, here's what we want, and be sure you get us the script in plenty of time. Now, and again, I understand the first 6 seasons, they were literally working on a week-to-week basis sometimes. Somebody would turn in a script and it would stink, and they go, okay, we got to rewrite this literally on the fly. But they don't have to do that now.
Yeah.
So somebody should have looked at this and went, wait a minute, we got some problems with this. Let's fix it.
Well, and especially because I feel like a lot of like minor things that would have happened with previous seasons where like, sometimes an actor's getting a week off, and that's fine, but you don't have to do that anymore. I would imagine that it's like, okay, we have a specific schedule, and then you take a break, you come back, we do it again, time off, probably not too much, maybe reduced role in some episodes, but not too much, or, the occasional episode where, an actor would get sick, namely Hartnell. That doesn't really happen anymore.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's like the production has changed and not changed at the same time. And it's been 8 years, so...
Oh, sorry for the rants.
But we do like the episode.
Yes, we do. Don't get us wrong. We love the episode.
Yeah, so... let's see. Well, in terms of our other unit boys, we had Benton, who did a little bit better in these episodes. So, he at least got to become acting governor.
I love when he answered the phone. Sergeant Acting Governor Benton.
Yeah, so... and then we also had Major Cosworth, which was an interesting addition.
Now, again, just my own experience. There are two ways that you can advance in the military. One is you can be a soldier, and the other is you're a bean counter. All right, you are a business type person. You are you are somebody who deals in organizing files and getting the money. You aren't a guy with actual combat experience. And Cosworth, was that his name? Yeah, strikes me as a bean counter. Yeah, and there's no way he should be out in a mobile HQ unit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's specifically, he's kind of running the radio and looking at the map and everything and helping with the plans. But yeah, you're definitely right. He's not an out there in the field soldier like Benton or Yates or even the Brigadier. Yeah. So he was definitely an interesting addition. Now, okay, so you're going to have to remind me of British military rankings, because all I can gather from this, Brigadier at the top, Captain is at least above Sergeant because Yates is above Benton. Where does Major fit into that?
All right. At the top would be generals, including Brigadier generals. Then the next step down is Colonel. You also have a Lieutenant Colonel. This is assuming that the U.S. and British military are similar. There's a Major. I don't think there's any grade of Major, but I could be wrong. Then Captain, and then Lieutenant. And there's like a First Lieutenant, Second Lieutenant. Those are all the commissioned officers. I think the highest ranking non-commissioned officer would be a Sergeant Major, but that's basically, I don't think he has a commission like the officers do. But then you get down into sergeants and corporals, and then the ordinary, whether they're privates or airmen or that sort of thing. Yeah. But that's the basic structure to my recollection.
So, would that mean then Cosworth would be higher than Yates?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because Yates is only a captain.
Yeah.
And Cosworth was a major.
Yeah.
So he would have been one step below Lethbridge Stewart.
Yeah. It's very weird how they're introducing these characters, because we had an entire season where it was just Benton, and that was all fine. And then it's like, okay, well, we need another guy. I guess we have to make him captain, so Captain Yates. And it's like, all right, well, now let's bring in another guy. I guess we have to go further than that, so now he's Major. Where these guys were all of last season, I'm not sure, but they're here now. Yeah. So, yeah, Major Cosworth and his... I mean, I guess, maybe he's got a good brain, and that's how he can...
Yeah, now, as an organizer, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And, again, if they had said he's out there because he's organizing maps and he's basically logistics... which is, making sure that the men are where they're supposed to be and the supplies are where they're supposed to be. But again, he doesn't strike me as a combat veteran at all.
Yeah. Although it was Yates that had to deal with the evacuation. So you would think that would be Cosworth if he's an organizer and everything. Yeah. I also just love his name. That's a very stereotypical British name, Cosworth. So that was interesting. Let's see. We had the machine creature that started to move. It figured that out.
Yeah. By the way, that just brought up a weird little thought to me. And you probably know this, but in Beauty and the Beast, the candlestick is named Lumiere. In French, that literally means to light up. And the clock was Cogsworth because back then clocks were not digital like they are now. They were done with gears, which are also called cogs. So Cogsworth and Lumiere literally are exactly what their names imply.
Gotcha. Let's see. There was the fight at the prison, which was also another good action scene. And the Brigadier acting, which was really good. Again, I find it funny when British people imitate other British people. I don't know why, that's just really funny. But I imagine it's got to be the same the other way around. When British people hear us doing different American accents, you know, whether you get some sort of southern country accent or some sort of the New York accent, you know, I don't know. So.
Yes.
So.
Not too bad.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I don't know if those are my greatest impressions ever.
So. New York, New Jersey, they're pretty much the same. You know what I'm saying?
There's one character on Prison Break, goes by the name of Teabag. And, yeah. And he is... He's from Alabama, and his voice is always fascinating, and people have told me that I do a really good impression of him. It's like one of those weird sort of southern accents, you know? So
okay.
It's very creepy and very befitting for a guy named Teabag.
Isn't the guy who played Captain Cold from DC's Legends of Tomorrow, isn't he in Prison Break?
Yes.
Does he still have that rather unusual accent that he has?
No. So the main two characters, Michael Schofield is played by Captain Cold, and his brother, Lincoln Burrows, is played by Heatwave. And they are probably two of the most normal people on that show. Like, it's actually hilarious that they're very subtle, actually. So Wentworth Miller playing Michael Schofield, you can sort of hear that in his voice, but it's a lot more subdued. And Heatwave, he just sounds like a guy. He just sounds, you know, just sort of a deeper voice, you know? Instead of the lowest growl that he can produce as Mick Rory. So, one day when I finally finish it, it's gonna be a while, but I want you to watch that because it's hilarious, and the two of them are really good in that show. So
now, were they doing that before Legends or after?
No, that was before, because it started in around 2005. So yeah, they did that, and then on Legends, I think they would joke about that every so often. It's like, well, we could go back to a prison, try to break out of it or something. So, but yeah, but they are really great in that show.
Oh, okay, I'll have to watch a couple episodes.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, we had Barnum. You called that Barnum being able to neutralize the thing.
Well, what I figured was that, again, he's a rather beefy guy.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't expect that there was going to be any kind of an alien in there or anything. But I assumed what would happen is that he would be unaffected by it, since it had literally drained every evil impulse out of him, which literally makes him a saint. And that my impulse was that he would somehow sacrifice himself to kill the machine, or whatever the force was.
Yeah.
And again, kind of happened there because he tried to save the master because that was his impulse. The guy is hurting there, so he picks him up, and then the master runs him over with a truck. So I mean, it kind of goes that way, but not exactly the way that I thought it would.
He runs him over at point blank, though, which you can't get enough speed to actually hit him. And he didn't run him over; he just sort of knocked him over, and it killed him. Yeah. So, oh well. Let's see. We had the whole thing with the deal for the missile for the dematerialization circuit, but that didn't quite go to plan.
And I would have thought that the Doctor would have done something that, even though the dematerialization circuit was working, because the master would need to test it out, I would have thought he would have done something like it happened to his own TARDIS, which is where that the master wouldn't be able to control it, that he would end up somewhere and go, oh crap, how did I end up back in the Pleistocene era, or I'm on the moon, and he cannot control where he gets back. So when the Doctor says, I probably will see you around, but it won't be anytime soon, that he meant that because he has disabled control of that circuit.
Yeah. You would think that, but I don't know if that happened. Yeah. So,
well, no, because the Doctor didn't realize that he had lost the circuit.
Right. So,
which is odd, because didn't he hand it to the master, and the master was still holding it when everything started going down?
Maybe.
Or did he?
I think he must have thought that he because they did have a bit of a scuffle, so maybe he thought that he had gotten it back, but the master had taken it instead. So, it's also interesting that he basically had no way to like imprison the Master or anything, so he was content with the Master dying in that explosion. It just didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, which I guess, I mean, I guess it makes sense. This isn't some ordinary villain or anything, that the Doctor would still try to save. This is the Master, and even though, yes, at this point we're sort of inferring a lot of their history from what we see later, part of that, we have had 2 complete serials now where it's like, okay, yeah, this guy is more than our average villain. I mean, he's kind of one of our first recurring villains, other than the Daleks and the Cybermen and all that. But yeah, I guess it does sort of make sense that the Doctor, he just doesn't have any way to imprison the Master, so he would just let him die.
But would he die, or would he regenerate? And then the Doctor would know what he looked like, because he would be completely different. Now, that's the thing. If his body is incinerated in the explosion, could he still regenerate? Is that something we've ever discussed in 60 years of Doctor Who?
It's so complicated. Because I've done a lot of I've asked a lot of questions about regeneration, like, if you get shot in the brain at point blank, can you regenerate? And people are like, probably not. But I guess it depends on how much he was burned. Like, maybe if he's burned like Anakin or something, but there's still a body, maybe he could still regenerate. There's also a problem of how fast did they die, because every time they regenerate, it is because they're about to die. But if they die before they regenerate, then it just completely stops. Kind of. Because then there's also the 8th Doctor movie where he was kind of dead for a while, and then he regenerated.
It turns out it was only mostly dead.
I guess. So, which, I mean, that's, as we were talking about, that Doctor Who consistency, there isn't any. So, maybe. It depends. Now, if he was a pile of ashes, I don't think that's regenerating.
But that would have also led to an interesting wind-up to this, when the Brigadier said, well, if we could have blown him up, that would have been the end of it. And then the Doctor says to Lethbridge Stewart, but, my dear fellow, look what happened to me. All right? Yeah. You met me in my previous incarnation, and look what has happened to me now. I suspect that even if he were blown up in the explosion, that wouldn't be the last we'd see of him. And that would be kind of an interesting little tag.
Yes. That would also mean, though, that they have any idea of what they're doing on regeneration.
But they've already done it twice.
Yes, but they still don't know what they did. I think our next time, when we go from 3 to 4, will be the first time they actually establish what a regeneration is. Until then, I think it really just is that this guy, and only this guy, can change his face. So, I think it's only later that they establish, no, this is something that all Time Lords can do.
Okay.
And then there's a whole theory that technically this is the Master's last life on this cycle. Because then eventually, spoilers if you haven't seen ahead, but we've seen The Deadly Assassin, where it did have the Master. He was a lot more gooey than this incarnation. But I think with that one, it was supposed to be like, that was still technically this version of the Master. He just tried to regenerate, and it just sort of broke his body. Yeah. So there's a whole lot of rules, a whole lot of science, and none of it makes any sense. And that is quintessentially Doctor Who. Yeah. So
anyway, we still love it.
Yes. And we still enjoyed this episode.
Yes.
So that's the main thing. It actually reminds me, there's this group of people that they do stuff about Dragon Ball Z, or they used to anyway, and they would make these videos where they kind of poke fun at it and stuff. But after a while, they were like, "No, we can't really do it anymore because it's so hard to make fun of something you really love." And it's like, really? I feel like that makes it easier. It's like, yeah, I love Doctor Who. I will poke holes into it until the sun explodes. But it's great. I do love it. It's just, we're just going to sit here like, Mystery Science Theater and point out every little flaw because we can. And we're on the internet, so what else are we going to do, So, anyway. And people do that all the time anyway, so.
They poke holes in us all the time, so.
Exactly.
What's up next, by the way?
Next up is the Claws of Axos.
Ooh.
So, another one of those. We're not really sure what that means.
Let's hope this isn't a werewolf story.
Well, maybe it's a legitimate werewolf story. Maybe they have like giant like wolf heads, like not just like they make him look like the Beast or anything, but they've got like a whole like costume, like a Chuck E. Cheese sort of hat that looks like a wolf. So,
or maybe it's another. What were the giant crabs?
The Macra.
The Macra.
Yeah, I guess those could
Return of the Macra, maybe.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. Whatever has claws, basically. So yeah, we will find out next time. I was trying to think if there was anything else. I'm trying to remember. I think at some point, it may just be around Christmas when we take like a 1 week break because it's Christmas. I think Christmas Day is on a Saturday, so I don't think we want to record then.
Probably not.
Yeah, so I was trying to remember, but I think we're good for a little while. I don't even think we're taking Thanksgiving off though, so it'll just be Christmas. Anyway, this recording has exceeded 2 hours because we keep rambling. So
Holy moly.
Yeah, this is a bit of a long talk for 3 episodes, but that's what happens. So leave all your angry or not angry comments down below and tell us how we're wrong about everything. And with all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around to any of those. There's a playlist for all of our classic Doctor Who reactions, as well as another playlist, maybe to the modern reactions you did or the modern reactions I did. Who knows? There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.